Okay, this is day 2 painting wise, and I just wanted to tell you this is the product that I'm using for my painting, the colors, and this is a Paul de Marais oil stick. Now, oil stick is real oil paints. It has a little more wax in it so it holds together. Now I've taken a razor and cut off the end, because I use them in shorter pieces than what it comes in the stick. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I prepare this stick by, it develops a skin on it. Just like an oil paint does, it develops a skin. Oil paints don't dry, they cure. And it develops a skin, so you take that skin off. I don't take it off the whole thing because I want to hold it in my hand, which is a really cool thing about this kind of oil paint. In some ways it's similar to pastel, which I used to paint a lot and loved it, but I wanted to go to oil paints because you could paint them and you can hang them on the wall, you don't have to frame them. So anyway, this is a white, and I can literally use my hand to start drawing it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just find a color to start with. And so usually I go to the horizon, which in this case, you know, really there's a horizon where your eye goes, but there's the part where the sky meets up with the mountains here. And what I want to point out, which a lot of people may or may not know, but I've never heard anyone talk about it necessarily, but above where the sky meets the mountains, and probably around every object, there's sort of an aura. And if you look at the color really carefully, you'll see a different color just on the outline of that mountain. It's crazy. But anyway, I'm starting with a white, and picking one color at a time. And why I'm starting with the white is because I'm blocking out that little white. I also have picked all my other colors the other day, and so I got them all prepared last night. And some of the colors just aren't going to be as light as what I would like. So I'm going to use my white, and I'm going to go ahead. Now I've got this big reference picture folded in parts. I'm going to move it up a little bit so I can get all of that. Okay, so I'm starting with my white, and I'm going to just trail it right here. Start with the sky part, whatever's in the back. Now I won't say that that's a hard and fast rule, but some people start with the dark objects, some people start with what's in the back. And I don't know if anybody does the same exact thing every single time, but I sure don't. So here's a little white. Now I've drawn this picture out with an orange pastel, and so it's picking up some of that, but that's okay. So put a little bit here. And just a light touch on it. Now I have a canvas, it's a stretch canvas, and so it has a little tooth to it. I'm going to be putting a lot of different layers on here, so I'm not too concerned about getting a whole lot of paint on at first. I just do a light touch, and then I let the rest of the paints take up the rest. So if I'm just using a little bit of white, I don't put in a lot. And I'm just going to get the light parts of the sunrise kind of mapped out a little bit. Half of the trick seems to be when you put you put down your drawing, it seems like the next thing you want to do is lose it right away when you start to put paint on there. It's just a really common thing to do, and so I'm trying to block out the areas so that I can keep track of what's going on. Because as soon as you put down some sort of a mark, it seems like everything changes once again, so it's easy to get lost. And this is another reason why I print my reference pictures big. Some people will say, don't use a reference picture. I say, yeah, I'm going to use a reference picture. And I try to make a special reference picture, something that is since we have digital cameras and we have software that we can make the pictures look just right, and we aren't just dropping pictures off for the youth in the group. You may never have done this, but you know, In the old days, you took the picture, you drop off the little film, and someone else develops it, and you never have a chance to fix it. So in my mind, if you've got digital cameras and you've got software, you can alter those pictures and really make the reference picture be what you want it to be, and then through the software that you have with your printer, you can print everything out to the colors that you want. So I just took it one step further, and I make a big reference picture. You know, partly because I don't have the youngest eyes anymore, but also what I've found is that it's less translation for me to do, and that gives me more of a chance of getting more accuracy. I'm not saying it's perfect, but that's why I do it. And the colors are right. The colors, I took great care to pick the colors. I did a little video on how to pick the colors. So I picked all the colors to go with this. So whatever this picture really is, after all the manipulating on the Facebook or on the Photoshop, pardon me, that is what it should be. Okay, now I'm gonna just wipe. I just use a tissue and just wipe some of that color off. Now I have a little purple back under here, and I'm gonna just put a little white under there. Now I put the white down before I put the color down. You could go the opposite way if you wanted to, but if you're gonna have to mix the color with white, then to my way of thinking, most of the time you're better off to do the white underneath, because then the color sings a little bit more. If you put the white over the top, it could look a little chalky. And by the way, you can always put more on later if you want to. So I'm just marking off this really pretty purple, and it's actually quite light. And you'll notice when you're painting it too, right down here there's this really pink part. It's pretty neat. So keeping track of that in your mind. Really look at the picture that you're painting. Look for those little passages that are really cool. And on a sunrise, you don't have common. You can't make a common statement about how it's going to be. It just is what it is. In other words, you can't say, well, the sky is blue. Well, the sky is like every color. And by the way, so is everything every color. Now, in fact, that makes me think, when I do my paintings, I have two things I think of in my mind. Everything has every color, and every color has its own composition. So that means that I'm painting one color at a time, and you can see I'm not putting a lot on there necessarily. I'm going to put some here for this horizon here, or this little field. But I'm going to do a little video to show you why that's true. But if you think about it, it's almost, to me, making a painting is almost kind of like when I watch the Olympics figure skaters. They hit every part of the arena, and they might go back and forth, and they go in a pattern and everything, but they never go out of the arena. You know, you're not supposed to make your paints go out of the painting so much. You don't want the people to, their eyes to go out of the painting. They stay in the painting, but the way that they move is kind of the same way as what I think of with the paintings. So everything has its own composition, it has its own color. But if you find that your paintings look a little flat, it could very well be you're missing a color. I typically miss red. But I solve that with this process where I pick, I make my reference pictures very meaningful, and I pick the colors right off of what the big picture is. And I made a big, full size. It costs some money to print it, but it's well worth it, because making it that size, you can really compare your colors to colors from your sticks to the painting. Yeah, that's about as far as I can go right now with this one. So I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to take, I think I'll take probably a yellow. Now this yellow isn't, let's see, I'm going to take this, it's kind of a, let's see, I think we call it a warm white, but it is more of a dullish kind of yellow, and put that here by the horizon and see how that looks. Oh yeah. It's surprising because we always want to think about colors that, in our mind. Oh, it's a sunrise, it's really, really bright. Well, some of these yellows, even close to the sun, aren't all that bright, and then others are. So you have to really keep your eyeballs open for what it is that you're seeing. Okay, don't get lost in the picture. Talking to myself. So, if a piece of this skin comes off, you don't want that to dry on there. So you pull it off right now. Okay, so my aura changes. So it's like a peach color, and then every now and then it hits onto that yellow. I'm not exactly sure what causes that, but you can, if you look for it, you can see it. You can see it in real life. There's even some right here. You can see it in real life if you look out at a horizon and you really look for it. You can see it. You can see it from a camera, a photo. I mean, obviously, you can see it. So it's pretty amazing stuff. And then you're going to have a little bit coming up here. And it may be a little dark. That's okay, because you're going to put other colors with it. But you're setting a base, and you're getting that just looking for that darker, more dullish color yellow. And you don't have to go everywhere. You don't have to be swashbuckling. You just want to put it where it really should ought to go. And if you've been doing painting for quite a while, and especially if you've been mixing colors for a while, you will automatically get a muscle memory for what color is that, what color is that, what color is that. And so it takes a little bit of practice. You should practice matching colors. Make a color wheel and then match the colors. It's a two-step process to learn how to paint the colors properly. In my opinion, that's what I did. So other people probably other things. Now the other day I did pick colors out for this painting, and there were 52 colors. Because we have, I have a lot of oil sticks, so I can do that. So I want to make sure that, if I use a color that is in the stick, it's going to be very clean. If I mix a bunch, I might end up with clean, and who knows, maybe I won't. So I just want to try to find where that's going to go. Now, this is the thing. Everything has every color, okay? So what I'm going to do here is see if I can show you what I'm talking about more specifically. I'm just getting the horizon here. I'm going to take this guy, and I'm going to, it's big, it's really big, okay? But what I want to do is I want to see where it is. And I also have a smaller size version too, because that is a little unwieldy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yellow, and I'm going to say, okay, let's see if I can keep track of everything here. There's yellow up here. There's a little yellow up here. Maybe I want to make sure I don't get that wrong. Okay. So there's this blue spot, So I'll come down here, come across here. And if it gets out of whack, well, you can fix it. That's the beauty of it. Okay. So I'm going to put a little here, and if I'm not sure, I don't put it down. I don't just go swashbuckling. I try not to anyway. So, all right, this guy. Okay, and I can add more later, but what I'm thinking of is down here, if you really look, there's kind of a glow. Well, let's put a little down in here. And what that does is it gives the painting a little continuity. So when I do, like some people do skies and they'll do water, and then it's a really understandable reflection that comes down. But with grass, it's not that different really. It's just that it hits the tops of the grass. So it isn't, I still do like, okay, I know my sun is coming here, so I want to make sure I have a little glow fest coming down here, even if I don't always see it. And this was a winter scene, and it's got some really beautiful purples and everything in there. Okay, so there's a little something something up here. Let's see if I can get it right. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and start looking at these purples. So I have my horizon, I have some light stuff going on here. Now I start bringing in the dark stuff and then laying the pinks on top of that. So what I might do is set this up a little differently now. Well, here's what you can do. You can also see how you can fold this in half. You can say, okay, so where is it? And if it gets a little schmutzy, well, that's how that goes. All right, so I can hold on to that. All right, so I've got a dark purple. That's, okay. So see how slick that is? It's like, okay, it's this guy. I know, because I could easily get mixed up, and I think I put my yellow on the wrong spot. So, okay, I ran out of space on that last one, so I don't know where I dropped off, but I'm going to just keep going. All right, so I got my dark purple on there. And the next thing I might want to do is go with the, I don't know, maybe something that's got a little bit of a red purple in there, maybe down in here. So I have some, Paul has some really great colors. Okay, so this is not the one I wanted. Take the glasses off. So this one here is a really nice reddish color. And so let's just try that on there. There we go. Pretty. I might have to come back in with white later, maybe. See, I put that right over top of that white, and then it really makes a nice light color. Because it certainly doesn't look white in the picture, does it not? It looks like a reddish. But it has to be, you have to mix this color a little bit with the white so that it'll show up. And now you see my values, tonal value study I did last time is just disappearing, as it should. It's just meant to mark our spots. And then we're going to just switch this over. This guy. Now what's funny about this one is that he's got a real dark kind of a bluish to him, so I'm not going to put too much on here. But in the front of this hill I will. Okay, and then down in the grass, ooh, yeah, it just really likes that reddish purple. And see how it's mixing with that yellow? It looks great, doesn't it? I mean, that's the whole point, is once you understand a little bit about mixing colors and what colors make up colors, it becomes a lot easier to take several colors and just feel free to use them and have a little confidence that it's going to turn out to be a lot closer look than you thought it was going to be when you started. You know, it's sort of like your brain is separating these colors. All right, so now let's see where I'm at. I'm way over here, so, and I'm up to about here. Okay, so I have some in here, and then I skip up here, and it's going to come up here. And let's see if it's right here. This guy here. This guy here. Get your mark in. And as we go, we're building these colors. So you're building the amount of paint. Now most of the Paul's colors, they don't dry during the session or anything. It takes anywhere from, well, some of the colors that I have will dry within a day. Some of them will dry within 6 days. The longest one now. And like I said, some people ask him for colors that don't even have dryers in them. So You know, if you have a certain needs in your thing, you know, for your program, you might just consider talking to Paul, because this is a really fun thing you can see, and especially if you're like a pastel painter, you can kind of get the reasons why a person would kind of want to try these oil sticks, because they, in a lot of ways, they're mixed colors. I have like over 100 right now, so they're not as many as you would get in a pastel package necessarily if you got the big package, which I never did get the big package, but so in that way they're similar to an oil paint, you know, like from the tube, but they're really Paul's a color master, so they're really cool that way. And any of these that get skin on there, I think I said it before, get the skin off of there. Now let's hit this all the way to the end, maybe, and then so we want to make sure we're getting a. In some ways, doing your reference picture this way, you're almost working in the grid. You know, people will happily work within a grid, and that's kind of how you're going. So you got to be careful, like I'm not always. And then now you're hitting this guy, and you'll know that because you got this dark thing showing up here. Like I say, we're not going to worry about that at the moment. Just get the paint down, and well, I guess you would say I'm saving some tooth. That was another thing I learned from the pastel world, is that you know you've got paper in that case most of the time, and you want to save your tooth so that you can put other colors down and it'll stick. So it's a similar thing. It's real similar in a lot of ways, and yet when it cures, you can just hang it on the wall. I mean, you can put if you want to, you can put a frame on it and all, but you don't have to frame it under glass. So that was part of why I moved to this. Alright, so that takes care of that guy. Now let's take maybe let's take maybe this guy. Alright, so where am I at here? I'm way over here. So I'm just going to take this little purple thing. Now, see if I can get there from here now. Now that I've kind of marked my spot, I can kind of go in here, and I can get a freer stroke by doing that. So I'm going to put this down. And now I kind of know where I'm at. So I can go like the figure skater and hit this guy over here, and then run over here, and do a flip over there, or whatever they're doing. I guess the Olympics are on now, so they're really on my mind that way, but triple lutz, whatever. Anyway, so okay, the human eye, let's talk human eye. The human eye is a funny creature because in itself, because what we do as human beings is we don't really study for very long any one thing most of the time, right? We hop and we skip and we look. We might drag our eyes across here and then hop to that bright thing over there. But most of the time, most of the stuff that you see is actually peripheral view. And kind of what I mean by that is you know, I can focus on it, but I'm only focusing on the tiniest part, and everything else is peripheral. So it's, as I guess my friend Paul would say eloquently, more eloquently than me, he'd say, you know, your mind sees the subject as soft. It's just a soft feel most of the time. I just think that that's because most of what you're doing is peripheral. All right. So it's a little more fun once you got your line started. And we're going to go here and pop over here. And then we're going to kind of see if we can't get some of this action. Oh yeah, that'll work. Into that snow. Now this photograph I took, and I did a little video on how to get the colors to match decor, but I tried a number of different settings on my printer and came up with this photograph, and then I printed the large one with the same settings. So it should be the same colors. It's just that it's so small that it's a little more saturated. And that means to me that in some ways it's the colors look darker or something even. But what I'm doing, I'm trying to kind of get the context of the whole a little bit easier with this smaller picture right now. I can't see all the details, and my eyes are getting old, so. But I'm trying to get that feel. I want to get. And this bar isn't helping me much. Okay, so that's really neat. All right. And what I'm doing here is I kind of just take my sticks and I put them on a glass palette, because I have them sitting here, and they aren't very messy, really. It's kind of amazing. So they're on the glass palette. It's really easy to clean it up. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch a gear here, and I'm going to go to this blue in the back, these light blues, and I actually have quite a few colors there. So I have this guy down here. Let's see where he's at. So there's some in here, it looks like. And drag him up in here. The sky is never blue. The sky goes from a blue that's a greenish blue up to a purple blue. And you know, this is the thing that's so kind of funny about people is you know, we teach each other how to not look at things, kind of thing. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so you have to be, when you're an artist and all that crap, you have to, I shouldn't say crap, sorry about that. You have to understand that the color is, it's a crazy thing. I mean, I have tried to study a little bit on color. It's a complicated subject, to be honest. And yet it's amazing. But this down at the, okay, if you think about it, down at the horizon, you are looking out over land. And this land in the picture is about, 6 miles away. And the farthest part is maybe 8 miles away. But the horizon and that sky is like many miles farther away at the horizon, because you're seeing way off into the sky. So you're seeing the color through a bunch of atmosphere. We don't have a ton of, I don't think we have a ton of pollution here necessarily in Montana where I'm at, but except for when there's having said that, I guess there is a lot of forest fire type action sometimes, but typically speaking not. Anyway, so when you're looking through all of that, it kind of makes the horizon look schmutzy, kind of yellowish, a yellowish green. All right, but as you go up and you're looking straight up, you're actually seeing a lot, the sky is a lot closer. It's a really blue sky most of the time. I'm kind of just babbling. Okay, so I should be over here and I should be up here. This is how I get off track. Okay, so I'm putting in some of this, I'm marking it up, and even up here I should have something going on. Now what's really interesting about clouds is that if you've got a blue area that's behind the clouds, it goes darker as you go. So you got green, then you got blue, and then you got dark blue. Okay, if you just line the color below with the color above, it'll make it work together. So if you're using this color up here, you just take a line underneath the cloud, and it'll bring that together. And you can similarly take the color here and put it under here. Don't ask me why that works. I just think it does. Okay, I think it's just continuity. I guess I should be more specific. It just adds a little continuity. So I'll take my green back here, and I'll say, okay, I want to make sure I've kind of got enough going on over here. Now I'm going to flip it and mark my spot. See, I've kind of lose my spot. Alright, so he kind of comes here, and here, across here, and then up in here. And if you get all messed up, if you keep on using your tool, you'll eventually, it'll clean itself up, I think. Alright, so, okay, this should be way up here. And see, I'm just going to bring this green, this is my first green I took, and I think, okay, I'm just going to take it up and bring it, okay, so it should go about here. And then I'm going to take my blue, and then I'm going to take that guy up here too. And this way I have all the blues will go on all the parts. So I should be in like Flint there. You know, and I'm trying, just stick with the top part. Hit this guy, let's see here, right about here. Right about here. Okay, and we come down here, and we come down here, and we come down here. And then we're going to take this guy and bring him across, And yeah, I talk to myself all day long. So there's that. Okay. Oops, and then you throw your stick. Alright, so I'm going to flip this. Get the stick. I'm probably going to lose my feed here a little bit. I only got about 16 minutes of storage, so it stops on me a few times. So hopefully there'll be some continuity in the whole thing. Okay. I'm going to bring it down. This is a very important little piece here because there's a lot of this blue in here. Now, by putting it in here, I'm actually putting it in relatively thickly, with a relatively thick manner, and that does take up the tooth, and I'm trying to take up the tooth right now with this. And it kind of ran out of that, so I'm going to take this green one back here because I'm down by the horizon again, and I'm going to say, okay, he just comes up here, and then he comes over here. Alright, so okay, so we're still working on blue. Take this guy here. And what I found is this: if the blue can be a little darker towards the top, but also a little brighter. Like this guy is really a pretty bright blue. And so when I put that over top of this green here, it really shows off, I don't know, a little bit of a glow. Some of these colors are just really nice glow fists. So there's that. Let's see, okay. Now, I probably should head over here a little bit. This guy comes way up here, and then on the flip side, he comes down here and up here. Alright. Now, I'm going to hit this down here. Where am I at? I'm over here. Okay, so I hit this guy. Okay. Remember, I'm bringing this blue down, so I'm hitting the top of this green here. And then every color is in every place, so I'm going to put a little bit down in here. And you know, if the sky is coming to you this way, and the land is coming to you this way, it makes sense that these colors are kind of above you. So even though the ground is a little bit farther away than that, that's just my thinking. So whatever color's here should be kind of down in here. Because everything, the thing about color, everything is reflective. So let's talk about that. The thing about what we learn in school is you know, all these colors, all these objects are certain colors. What you learn is that there's no such thing as that. That's not exactly true. depending on the time of day, depending on what's reflecting, the colors come with the light, right? The colors, how do you say that? Let's take sunlight. Sunlight has energy, and it depending on what the object is that it hits, it actually absorbs certain energy and reflects off what we see as color. So in reality, green grass is really everything but green grass because it absorbs everything but green. But that's kind of technical. Anyway, what happens is when the light source, the energy comes in, boom, 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 and it hits a thing and it bounces off in every direction. So where there isn't sunlight directly hitting a thing, what's happening is all of that energy is hitting in a reflective way. It bounces off in this way and that way. So it's kind of crazy. So what's happening here is reflecting here. Anyway, that's probably enough for another topic some other day. All right, so now what am I going to do? Okay, what I think I'll do is, I think I'll go with, now, let me think here. So this is crazy almost, but I'm going to go with like a darker red. And this is called a cad maroon. And it doesn't seem like it would be a sky color, but the clouds themselves actually seem like this. That's a tractor going by. The clouds have shadows behind them. So I don't want it everywhere necessarily, but it's a really interesting maroon color, and it'll darken everything up with a little bit of red in it. So it's cool. It's a really neat color. I really love it for a whole lot of things. I don't need to get crazy, but it's a way to really get some darkness here. Okay, so pay attention, Carolyn. Alright, so you kind of go in like this and across over here. And you got something happening here. And this will turn into something a little more pink. And I'm really kind of looking at undersides of clouds right now as I'm going across. Okay, and see, I'm using this whenever I feel like I need to be careful about where the color goes. And before you know it, there'll be enough colors filled in so that enough of the puzzle pieces will be filled in so that you can just move a little bit faster. Okay, so I'm coming up here. Gunk. Come on now. Okay. And I'm coming under here. Maybe just touch in a few of these places here. And then you have to see what happened over here. Okay. So hit this guy, and down here. Now what's really nice about putting in this kind of reddish is when you put in the oranges and stuff, it'll go with. In other words, it'll mix properly. If you came in and made it with a gray, it probably wouldn't mix the same as a color that is a little darker, but it has a little red in it. Oh, that's confusing, I don't know. Okay, so I'm put a little up here just for fun. And now I'm going to take this guy and, okay, color. When a thing is far away, the blues have the longest rays. So when it bounces off a thing and it reflects out blue, that is what you see far away. When you're up close, all the colors are bright. But as you go, yellow dissipates and then red and then blue. That's why mountains look blue. So when I have a red sitting here in my hand, I want to be careful that I don't go willy-nilly because otherwise it will make everything look flat. So back here, I just leave that be a blue purple. But up in the trees, I can add a little bit of this guy in the trees. Now in trees, okay, sometimes things look, from far away, they look kind of black almost, right? But in reality, black is really the absorption of all the colors. So if you think primary colors, and let's just go with newer technology like, well, it's not actually new, but like take your printer. It has CYMK, cyan, magenta, which is a blue, magenta, which is like a pink, yellow, and then they throw in a black. Okay, but to make a black, that is, it's like you mix together enough of the components so that it absorbs all the colors. So if you put all of the primary colors together, you basically get a black. Only it doesn't look quite so flat as a, you know, like a jet black or something. So if I put in this dark red, and then maybe I'm going to put green in there, because green has yellow and blue, and maybe a purple in there, I get this really amazing shadow that isn't a black. You know, so that's a common mistake that people do make, is that they use regular black to make a shadow that just looks dark to them. And especially if you're using photographs, because photographs have a tendency of making, one of the drawbacks of it is that the photograph doesn't look at things like a human does. And so it'll take it actually, well, first of all, it'll make everything look as detailed as it sees it. You know, we see, like I said, in peripherals, it will make every little thing detailed. But then it'll take, and all your values will separate into, it'll group them. Like you'll have light, medium, dark. Whereas you have a wide variety. So when it gets to a shadow area, it looks dark, really dark. Like this looks really dark, but you know, you can mess with that a little bit. I'm kind of pontificating, so I hope that's okay. If not, I guess you won't listen much longer. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to take a purple up here, and I'm going to start trying to fill in some of this up here. Okay, so I'm way over here, and I can bring it in. Kind of, you know, I'm still marking the territory as much as I can. Now, what's really amazing, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's really a dark purple and a pink over the top. So this is not a finishing move in any way, shape, or form. It's just sort of marking where these pinks are. And then I'm going to be coming back and forth a little bit. Okay. I don't even have the right side. All right. Now it's actually quite pink in here. And so now you start to see where, and if you have to, you can wipe off your stick. Now you see that you automatically get a certain amount of blending. So you want to be careful where you're going if you can, but you also want to get some kind of a stroke, because that's kind of what's fun about painting anyway. Okay, so I'm going to pink this up a little bit, pink on the top a little bit, and then I'm going to hit this guy, and pretty soon you're getting this pink in here. And even in here, one of the things you miss in the sky a lot of times is these really subtle little parts. And so don't forget them if you can see them. Sometimes, you know, it takes a long time to see all of the intricacies of the sky. You know, once again, I think we've taught ourselves to not look too carefully. So it's one of those subject matters, I think, that requires you to really concentrate on what are you actually seeing. And how can that possibly be? And one of the things that's really funny, I kind of have this laugh about it when, you know, people don't want you to take the photographs. Well, a sky changes. One of these skies, by the time you click the picture, if you click 10 pictures, they'll probably have, especially if it's moving really fast, they'll all be different. So I mean, you go click, click, click. It's all different because it's changing that fast. I don't really know how you would ever do justice to a painting unless you got a super great memory, and I haven't got that. If that's, you know, kind of how you're going. That wasn't a sense. Well, I guess I just think that the camera is really important for some of these pictures, and I'm sensitive to the fact that, you know, sometimes people think that you shouldn't be using cameras, but I think that, you know, especially in order to learn what it is that you're seeing. All right, let's open this guy up a little bit. I kind of changed it. All right, so now we're gonna keep going. And I got a little over here, and if I go up here, I got some up in here. Now it's mixing together with that really nice blue that we put down. We put the blue down, if you recall, in a little bit thicker motion. Okay, now I got this really pink spot. Oh, we like that. And then we have this guy and this guy. Now this blue filled in quite a little bit of the blue. But what we need to do is see what happens. I filled in that tooth, and then it doesn't pick up the color quite as much. So if you can really manage your tooth easy enough, I think. So in other words, if you want to, you can fill in the tooth a lot, and then that helps you in some situations. But then if you because it slides a lot easier if you do that. But if you are just building up sections and colors and combinations of colors, then you want to be careful not to put too much tooth in there. But what it did is, see how it reserved that spot for this blue. Even though I put the pink over it, because it filled up that tooth, it reserved the spot in a way. Okay, so I'm way up here. Way up here and here. And then I'm coming, oops, losing track of my stick here. Okay, and then down here I got this purple thing going on, but you know, why not just put it in there, because it gives that continuity. Okay, so where do we not have this pink? Oh, we don't have it down here. Okay, so let's hit it with that guy. Now I have a lot of pinks and I have a lot of peaches and oranges picked out. So, you know, when you start to put some of this in, when you start to put some of this in here, you know, I know that I haven't picked out, so I'm gonna go ahead and kind of leave some areas for the other colors too. So there you go. And that's that purple pink. Okay, I kind of forgot to push the record button, so I actually put on like 3 more colors. I put on this bright darker pink and a really dark blue, which went way up in the clouds, and it went down in here. And then kind of a purpler color that goes over, and it started mixing with this blue pretty well. So sorry about that. Okay, so the next thing, okay. And sometimes I just look at the colors and I think, oh yeah, that might help me. So this is a blue that's kind of a grayish blue. It's kind of got a green tint to it when you put it down, and so that's kind of neat. I'll put that in here. It might be a little greener than maybe I needed, but I think it'll look fine once it's in there. Okay, so down in here. And so I'm not trying to fill up the entire space necessarily, you know, because that makes it, it kind of sucks the life out of the blue, But every blue you see, every color you see is going to have a touch of something else in it, because there's so many vapors in the sky itself that are catching colors that may or may not be particularly bold or strong. But it creates an illusion anyway, so it's kind of neat. This kind of just dulls down some of this brighter stuff, which is not the worst idea. That guy up in here. Hold on to it. So down here in this grayer area down in here, that's a really good spot for this color. Just skip over that so you don't mess up your yellows. Okay, and then up in here. Okay, so now we're going to take, okay, maybe up in the front, because this has got a little bit, even though it's a blue, it's got a little bit of a yellow in it. So we're going to scuff up our front just a little bit. And it plays almost as a green. It looks like a blue, but it's a gray blue. So in this context, it plays like a green. And one of the cool things about this kind of color is it's one of those colors that is more muted, and so it automatically goes with a lot of decor. A lot of the paints that you get at the hardware store, except for if you go with like a real trendy one, like the color of the year right now is a real bright purple. But you know, the paint companies aren't really advertising that as a color that they're, you know, putting on the wall too much. I mean, you can find examples of people using it, but they'll have like a more of a grayish version, and it makes it easier to accessorize those for some reason. So that's pretty cool. So I'm kind of dousing down this dark blue in the back, and I think it makes it kind of fall backwards just a little bit. This guy here is just a little something. Alright, so now I think it's more or less a thing where now you just have to pick the next color. So how do we want to do that? Well, let's see. All right, let's go back to where we started, kind of at the sky. Now I have this really bright yellow. The really bright yellow is one that tips some of these clouds. And it's kind of garish. I'm probably going to be tapping that in so that it's not quite so brazen before I'm done. But for right now, it's okay. You know, it sets the stage for the other colors. And the brights, like I mentioned before, they don't go that far up in the sky. It might be right around here, perhaps, and not the whole entire thing at all. But look for it. Look for those yellows. Okay. And there might be some down here in this aura. Okay. Now, that guy was the fast one. So I'm going to take a, let's see here. I'm going to take one of these here. Oh, he's a good color. Now this is actually a very bright kind of goldenrod type of a color. And he's very bold, so again, we're probably not going to put too much of him on there. But a couple of these will really just make the rest of it pop just a little bit. And there's really nothing wrong with that. Okay. Then I take an even darker color here. Let's see, maybe I don't want that one. Maybe I want something that's a little bit more subdued in its way. So like a peach color. Now I'm going to take my peach and start I have to prepare that again. Got kind of get that skin off of there. Okay, so I'm going to put this peach in. Oh, that's peachy. And I think I mentioned it too, is that the peach color is really a great aura color. So you bring that along and then you shoot that out this way. Okay. Now, up it goes. Now this peach isn't terribly garish in its at all, so it can go in a lot of places and kind of melt colors together in its own way. It's a go with color. And that's you know, it's a friendly go with color. It'll go with a lot of the decor colors that people might have, because it isn't a garish looking color. So that's part of the secret right there, is you don't want it to be you don't want it to be bright, and you want it to stand out, especially where you want people to look in the piece, but you don't want it to be too garish. And even see what happens when I just put that over top of some of these other colors. It mixes right in there and automatically shifts a gear. It's pretty cool. When a peach hits a pink, so a lot of times it'll give you sort of an orangey. And way up here, we've got some peach. We have a little bit of glare up at the top there. Okay, here's this guy. Now he comes over here, way over here. A little bit here, and a little bit to take you from here to there, and up here. Okay. Now, where have I missed? I missed here, and a little bit here, and a little bit in here, and there's some up here. And what's funny is like this little peach. It really stands out a lot when you put it up into the darkness. Maybe you can't even see that, I don't know. Because I have that camera at such an angle. Okay, so now I can put some of this guy down in here and give it sort of a glow. And in fact, because it is kind of glowy, I can glow up under this sunrise coming up too. Just make it glow. And really accentuate that. Okay, that's a cool color. Now I can take one that's kind of a brighter and hit this guy. Yeah, that's good. Up here and here. This one is definitely adds a lot of character to it. Start getting this oranges built up. So I don't need to cover all of my peach color I just put down there, but it can go on either side of it. That works. And see, now this is getting to be more exciting and fun, because you're not it isn't so tedious to try to mark the spot all the time. Let's See, this happens to me all the time. So I'm cleaning that off. I don't need a glob on there, so. Okay, and then up in here, we're gonna go, and we have a good bit up in here. We also have some over here. Don't forget it. Don't forget it. And you know what? Sometimes it helps to step back and see what you did. Now, this is what happens when you put this pink, this peachy color over top of this purple. It really, it still looks kind of purpley, but in the context of this sunrise, it goes with the bottom, you know. Whereas up here, you don't want to you don't want to get too far out on a limb as far as the picture. You don't want to come too far, because then it doesn't look, it looks like you're only looking, I mean, it's really bright here, and then the pinks take over above your head. So you gotta make sure that you stick with the program, because this is really fun when it starts to work. Now down here, oh yeah, hit this guy, try to find a spot where it will work. Oh yeah, there we go. And you don't have to go the whole way. You just have to know that it's going to be glowier underneath here. And there is sort of a glow effect at the top of that hill too. We talked about that. So there you go. All right. Now let's start working on. This color is so pretty. Okay. It's like lipstick on there. So we're going to put a little lipstick on there and really brighten up that. Well, it sets some darker context into that lighter color, and then that really starts to bring stuff out. It goes around, and it goes down here onto this part here. And pretty soon, this is an amazing color. Okay, so, So it's kind of funny. I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, I forgot some yellow in here. I can come back in with that later. I can come back in with that and put the yellow in there. But the more the puzzle pieces that come together, the clearer that becomes, and then you just have to add it in. Stepping back just a little bit now and then to see if you missed a spot, because we're kind of bouncing around, which is fine. I don't even think there's anything wrong with it. And then hit that, and then maybe just hit a little bit in here. Well, that's the thing. That is the thing. We can even put some in those trees. I mean, there's no law that says you can't. Okay, so that's it. Roll in there. Okay. Now, well, my camera turns off. I can't hear it turn off, so sorry about that. But I've been just putting on different colors of orange into the sky now, and kind of going from darker to lighter. And now I'm going to take, I'll take some of this kind of peachy color here. This color is, compared to the others, is very neutral. And you know, in order for a color to look bright, it really helps to have something neutral next to it, because you know, it just lets that brighter color stand out. If everything is bright, then nothing is bright, which is kind of something I had to learn the hard way myself. So I've got kind of a lot of paint on here already, but see where I go with that. Okay. How about a lighter version of that? I think this is a lighter version of that. That's much better. Okay, so I'm going to hit the bottoms and hit the insides of these clouds here. And that will tone it down. And I'm pulling off, literally pulling off some of this extra paint with the stick, and then I just wipe it off on a tissue. There we go. Tap this into these edges in between, and then that sets me up. Pretty soon we'll be done putting the colors on it, and then we'll be just tapping edges in, actually, like tap, 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 and then maybe a brush if it needs it, but mostly just trying to make sure that we have smooth transitions from one color to the next, or edges, as some people like to call them edges. So, okay, light that up, light that. So what I was trying to say there is and I don't know if I got it in, but you're taking some of these more less bright colors, and then you can literally make the brighter colors stand out, right? I guess I probably did get that. And it's just sort of a nice transition from one space to the next. It lets your eye relax as it hops to the next place, which is really great. You know, because that's what our human eye wants to do, right? It just wants to hop and skip from one shiny object to the next. Got a little bit of orange in here. I think, you know, I'll end up having to come back with some pink. Now we can do that in a couple ways. We can, once we get these edges in, what we're going to do is let this whole thing cure enough so that it's dry to the touch, and then we can glaze it, which is just the thin coats of paint over top of other paint. It's just a simple version of the process, and pink it up. One of the cool things that we have here is we have really cool colors as far as one of the magical secrets, I should say, is fluorescent colors. I know, what? But those fluorescent colors is one of the few colors that that you can use that'll literally brighten the colors back up. You know, once you lose your brightness, it's hard to get the colors back. So, oh gosh, you know, there's a lot to this. So talking to you about this is really making me think about how many things there are to think about. Okay. Now, let's see, where am I at here? I think I might have to take a bright now. Oh wait, I think what I'll do is I'll go back to this yellow and get this back in here before I move to the next. Because I kind of forgot to do that part. And this yellow can come in here too. Oh, that looks kind of pretty. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to just hit the lights now. That's good. Because I end up with so much paint on here that even if my colors aren't perfect, And by the way, I didn't use all 52 colors, right? So, will I? I don't know. If I have to. If I don't have to, I won't. But at the end of the day, I pick them out and I get them prepared so that I can use them. I just pick them up. Otherwise, I'm stopping all the time. And so, probably less colors it would typically be better. But in this case, all these colors are in the same families, and Paul has just done us a service by mixing them, having it pre-mixed. So there are all, they have a cohesiveness anyway. Let's take it down here. Okay, now, what I'm missing is enough pink at the top, and that's kind of a darker blue. And let's see what I can do about that. I actually have blue I didn't pick out, so I'm going to take that. It's almost the color of the year, which is a really dark purple blue, blue purple. Hope you're still tuned in. Okay, so I got to clean that off. Now let's take this guy back up here and see. Oh, Dan. Sorry about that. That really was almost too much. Yeah. Almost too blue. Okay, so I'm just going to put it in different places here so that I can blend it all in. But it definitely is pretty, and it's, again, kind of... Okay, I've kind of decided to go with a little purple in here. Might not be quite right, but let's just try to get it in there. So now I'm looking for more juice, not less juice. And that just means more pigment in on the canvas so that it's going to be easier to manipulate. Put a little more in there. It's almost more purple than I wanted. So what can I do about that? I could probably hit it with this green. Why not? Yeah, because it's too light. Okay, I could take a different green here, maybe, and just maybe not. So I'll take a little cobalt blue. And why not? We'll take the one that we had that was kind of showing up as greenish. I don't have a lot on this here, but oh yeah, that'll help. You can use this stuff down to the nub, really, if you've got good fingers on. There you go. That made it a little more. Well, see, you don't want it to be too bright because, again, it's got to go with people's decor. And that's the goal, is to make it something that people can really live with and enjoy for a really long time. And even, get past, if they like to change their decor a lot, it should go with. And, that's the goal, is to get enough of those types of colors in so that it will go with. My whole goal here is, right now, is to just get enough juice in there so that we can get to that next step. Alright, so I'm going to take a little of this blue here. Of course, it doesn't work. Okay. So this is, yeah. Okay, it's kind of a grayish, purplish blue, a light color. Oh, that's better. Alright, so now I can get some good stuff in here. And fill in this, gaps, get this out of here. Fill in this guy. He goes underneath these clouds, I can see. And you can't just leave a big old block, even though it is a big block. Like, you have to put some contrast in. Maybe you can't even see that, it's a little high on the picture. But you got to put some contrast in so that, you know, people can differentiate one cloud from the next. And almost, if they got this much clouds in the sky, typically, they're like even just tiny whiffs of clouds are everywhere. And so, you know, you're missing the boat if you don't put in enough detail. And missing the boat if you put in too much, right? So something like this will take all these and I'll just kind of fluff it in there nice and loose. And I can leave a little bit of dark at the edges for just so that so I can vignette it a little bit. And I think that just holds, especially with a horizontal type of format like we have. You're just holding people's attention into the piece a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so I'm starting up here with this purple I had, trying to, or it's like a bluish purple, trying to get, you'll be wearing glasses sometimes and not others. Trying to get some. What I'm trying to do is try to get enough of the right colors and get enough paint on the piece so I can get it kind of finished out for the day. So wherever I see canvas, I know I don't have enough paint there. And, you know, some of these pictures, I still have quite a few colors I never did use at this point, but the more important thing, I think, is to get a good finish before you get finished, because the paint will adhere better to a more finished situation. Okay, so let's take a little bit of this down in here. And then what happens too is if you get too much paint on into the tooth there, you end up with just a bunch of muckety muck. It's not even, you know, it just doesn't look quite right. You're better off to let some of that be done on a different day, because you've got too much paint and it's hard to manage it. Okay, so let's see. Oh, there's one color I really wanted to use before I quit, and that one's this green. This is a new green. Oh, yeah. I can find out the name of it. This is one that Paul just did for me. Well, he didn't do it for me, but I get to try it out. Okay, so here's this green. Yeah. I want to know what it is. Oh, here it is. Green. Saladen. Yeah. Okay, so down here in this bright green stuff, oh yeah, that's what we're looking for. That really sets it off. Now, if you're going to put green up in here, remember, put it on the bottom and edges of it, so that it looks more realistic. I'll throw some down in here, Because we don't have much green in this piece in the first place, but every color, every place. So go ahead and put a little bit of something, something. This is a great color. Alright, so and then the last thing, I don't need that kind of pink. This one might be good. Okay, I gotta make sure I've got it cleaned off. This is a dark, bright pink. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm gonna hit these guys one more time with this pink, because I want to make sure that I don't walk away with the completely wrong color. So I've got to put some of this darker pink back in. Now this is a custom pink that Paul made for me. It's based on a color I've been using, and I just asked him if he could come up with something similar, and so he did. And it's not a garish pink at all. It's a nice. It's just a really nice, natural looking, but darker pink. And just putting that in there will help set the tone. Maybe I should have a little purple in there. So let me try to get this correct, because it pays dividends to put it down correct the first time instead of like the 50th time. We're doing a lot of work to try to keep from having to do a lot of rework. And that's, that is the name of a lot of the games. But also, somebody told me one time, a teacher of mine told me one time, stop when you're tired. So if you get tired, make sure you stop a little before so that you can get the blending stage in, because that is the key. Now we got a little bit of fingers coming here. And then we do have a lot of purple that I could just throw in there too. Yeah, that work is never done. Put some up in here and hit this guy. Now remember, if it gets too full of goob, it won't stick. So de-goob it. So pretty. It's really pretty. Okay. And down in here we have a lot of pink. Okay. Now let's get back to our, not that guy. We have a red purple here. This thing is one we started with. We can come back to it. Yeah. Okay. And so we're just gonna reinforce our shapes of this purple. Yep. Let's see how that goes. And it makes the pink stand out, because it is purple, and purple has a little bit of reddish pinky stuff in there, so there's that. I got a little bit of reinforcing there. course I could. So that is about as far as I think I can go without the adding the paint. Oh, maybe a little bit of this. Some of these colors are so great. This is a fluorescent peach. Oh yeah, this is good. Okay, so yeah, just stick a little of that in there, here and there, just to liven her up. Sloppy. So this has to be the end of this part. It's a great color. Fluorescent peach. It's getting kind of crazy. This. Yeah, there we go. Are we talking now? Yep, we're talking. Okay, so let's I'll turn this off and then start the next step. Okay, so our next step is we have put all this paint on. Now we have to tap it in. We got a couple of jobs to do. One, we got to get all of the pieces of canvas covered so that just so that there aren't little bits and pieces of canvas that aren't covered. And we want to get, and we're just going to tap in where the edges of the colors meet to start with, so that we don't overblend. And then later, if we need to, we can come back in with a brush. So I usually start with these edges a little bit, so I can kind of see that. I paint the sides black, so that a person could literally hang these just to give it a little finish. So when it's all done, they can hang it on the wall without a frame if they want to. I mean, frames are always better, and you know, I would suggest, you know, professional framing if you can. If you can't, discounted frames. A lot of frames you can get online. The sizes I use are almost always standard size. So you should be able to get that. For other artists, that's not the worst idea, because you know you don't want to get this thing home and then you can't put it on the wall. That's a pet peeve of mine. So this is the tedious part, is just getting it. And you'll notice that I had started with airbrush, like a teal color on here. That's just to tone the piece, in case some of these, the paint doesn't cover completely 100%. Sometimes it's just, I mean, we're talking pinprick size gaps, and that's hard to do. So I'm going to turn it off right now until I get all the way around that, because that's really boring. Okay, now that I got the edges all done, then it's a little easier to look at it. Now, one of the things, okay, I failed to mention too, I have the sides painted black, and then I tape and mask the tape, so it's butting up to tape there. But the black makes it so it's a little more palatable. Now, some of this extra, I'm just going to take it off right now because it's not going to help me. And some of it, you can see some of it easier than others. And part of that's just the skin. Sometimes the skin just gets obnoxious. And so, and you can see it's easy to just scrape it off. It doesn't seem to disturb all of the paint that you've done. That one maybe. Of course I say that. And the key to this whole skin thing is that the more you can get off before it dries to the touch, then you have less problems. Because if you leave it in there and it dries and then you pull it off, you will actually create like I call it a scab. It just creates a gap, and it'll probably bring you right down to the bare canvas, and then you're trying to fix that. And the paint does not apply properly when most of it is got paint on it, and then you slip. It's kind of like when you have a pothole, right? And then they try to fill the pothole. It's always kind of a bumpy ride right there. You almost have to refinish it, or rebuild it up, and oh my gosh. So you're better off to have as much of it off as you can. And so when you tap it in, you're going to have a look, so why not just get it now, and then your look won't be disturbed. Yeah, because you're trying to get edges, that's the funny thing. Maybe other people would describe it differently, but to me it's just basically the where colors kind of come together. Sometimes they're smooth and sometimes they're not, and it's a lot of it in painting has to do with your strokes. So if you get a nice transition somewhere and then all of a sudden you got to do this to it, that's sort of is not good. Okay, good enough. All right. So I keep my tissue. And what I'm doing is I use my pinky because it's the least excited. I just start. I'll just start here so you can see. And I wipe my hand off between colors. And the reason I do that is because, as I mentioned before, if you mix all these colors, then you're just going to get a dark gray dull color. Now, some of that's good, and some of that is not good. Now, some of these paints are a little bit stiffer than the others, so it works. And, even if you don't have to start at one end and go to the other, but eventually you should hit everything. So, I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll get back at the end of it. Okay, so I got most of the sky, and now I'm down in the land. Actually, some of this, because it's horizontal, I just lightly run my hand where the two colors meet, and leave a little bit of chunk because it's easier for the eye to see it, and those colors can stay together. You don't have to get too crazy. But we're almost done with this part of with just the pinky. And so the next step is we're going to take a brush where we need to take a brush, and that will smooth out some of these areas. And then if you really get there and you really want it to be even smoother yet, then you can put a glove on, like a plastic glove on your finger, and just do your finger over it. Now see, I'm just tapping in these trees, making a tree here and there. And I'm not over blending at all, but you can with the glove on the finger after you brush. You almost got to take a brush to it first to kind of get the paint to cooperate, and then it works really pretty good. Okay, so I have my glow colors, and the glow colors are really just sliding over it. Don't get too wild there. Okay. And if you get some grass, you know, if you can pop it on the bottom of it and bring it up, and that'll give you a little illusion right there. Easy. Okay. Alright, so the next thing is the brush, right? Well, so what we'll do is we'll take, I think we'll just start with a sable brush. And the first place we're going to start is on the see how you forget the words when you get tired. On the edge where the, on the aura, that's what I was trying to think of. And I just softly go over it, and it doesn't have to be super duper smooth. It just has to be just a light touch. Because one thing about it is you can even go on the land side or you can go on the other side. But if you go just a little over, it'll smooth that out. The mountains that by my house are not necessarily super rugged. I can see some from my house, but not right by where I live. So I don't make them super rugged. I think, you know, they look like more places that other people might live if I just keep them a little bit softer. Because there are really mountains in all sorts of places everywhere. So, okay. That's the first step. And then I might take and make this background just really light. This is a sable brush. Same sable brush I would use to put down the initial paint. Like the, it was just tonal. And I have a bunch of them that came in a pack. So I'm just hitting the sky side, just really light. And that just accentuates that glow a little bit. And that's all I'm really trying to do. And if you start like on the white and you bring it across, it will clean up some of this other color. Thank goodness. Anyway, if you see some of that schmutz, that skin, get that off of there now is the time if you see it. If you don't see it, then you don't see it. But, you know, it can be a real problem if you have to pull it off after everything is dry. And you lose your pretty stroke too if you do that. So see how I'm really just barely going over the edges. And that makes it very realistic. And down here by the horizon, these clouds are thinner from top to bottom. And so, see, I get rid of that. Yeah, it looks like somebody stuck their pinky finger in there. Oh yeah, that's right. So anyway, try to make sure that you've got all of the canvas covered and the schmutz off. And then what I like to do at the end of all that is I will take it into the other room where there's just more natural light and make sure that it looks good in that room so that, because that's the kind of room it'll end up in, hopefully, is hopefully somebody will want to put it in their space and they'll probably have a room it'll go in that may or may not have special lighting, and so it's a really good place to get that to work. Now next steps after this will be to come back in after this is completely dry to the touch, meaning that there's a good skin on it, and then we'll be either glazing other colors on or repairing areas, you know, just adding here, adding there. And we actually, the finish, I mentioned it a long time ago, maybe it got on the tape, but that my big problem I was having is that I wasn't, I didn't have a very good finishing stroke, and so I just kept painting the same painting over and over again. Well, this process of apply the paint, then move the paint, is actually lends itself to a finishing stroke also. So it's really exciting, and it really lends itself to especially sky pieces and real organic pieces. See how realistic that starts to look. It's kind of funny. Anyway, so I'm going to call it done because you've been very kind to be listening for all of this time. If you have any questions at all, let me know. I'll be videotaping some of that last session, but this was the big one, and it's a lot of work that day because you've got to get it from beginning to end in one session. So it's like the first layer is kind of an ala prima, and then you fix it. So then it's not really an ala prima, right? Anyway, thanks again. I appreciate your patience, and again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks a lot. Bye. Okay, here's the final brush down after the first session. So next time we're going to go fill in some of the gaps. But I think it's a good start so far. Bye. Thanks for watching.